This is the wet saw that I use to cut the tile. Basically, it looks like a little mini table saw, and you use this to cut your tiles. You have to keep water in it. You have to check that constantly because otherwise the blocks will heat up and you'll see sparks and things fly. But you keep it wet, so it's very messy. It shoots water out, sort of spins the water out when you're cutting. And when working with the wet saw, make sure you have eye protective gear and hand protective gear. You want to keep, as with any tool that's a cutting tool, you want to keep your fingers away from that blade. You want to use this outside because it shoots water out. It's very messy. There's a lot of dust. You need to wear safety glasses. It's got the hexagon and the diamonds, and they're joined by small pieces. You can hold on to it like this as you're sliding it through, but you have to be careful with the individual pieces. They're so small. If you don't hold down on both sides, for example, if we were cutting this little piece in half, you hold it like this as you would go through the cutting machine. You can't just hold one side of it for each little piece, because these little pieces, they'll break easy. So you have to hold it on both sides, keeping your hands away from the blade. Now, this cut is easy because it's just a straight cut all the way across. Sometimes all you have to do is just disconnect by pulling off some of the parts to get it to fit where you want to. But here's an example of a piece that got broken. Sometimes when you're cutting, if you don't hold it right, the piece will break. The blade, when you're done with it, it's a good idea to oil it so it doesn't rust. Some tools needed when doing tiling. This is I think it's called the trowel. You put the mortar down, and you put it down on one side, and you kind of run it like this, and it's going to leave ridges, like a low place and a high place, and that spacing helps so that when you put your tile on it, you can, if your ridges are going this way, you would push it back and forth like this just a little bit to get it to set down. And hopefully you haven't put it on so thick that it comes up between, because after the floor is completely laid, then you will put your grout on top. You would use the floater to put your grout on, and again you would put it on your side and you'd kind of put it in, rubbing it in so to make sure that it goes down in the spaces. And I used a gray grout to go with these tiles because I wanted the stronger contrast of the darker color between the white space. Right, I have all the tiles cut. It may look like it is done, but it's not. Actually, these tiles are just sitting here, and I needed to do that so that I could cut my tiles. Let me just show you. See, they're just sitting here. Now, most of the ones in the middle are just like this. They're a whole tile. So what I've got to do now is I have to, in an organized fashion, I need to put them out, take them out of this room. You're probably thinking, well, why do that? Well, you know what? I wanted them all cut first. You see here, this is the end. So all those little triangles are the little tiny pieces. I'll probably just put those in a little box. And on this side, when I lift up the square, you see all those little end pieces? I'll just put those in a little box. On this side, it's like a half a tile because I had to cut that end. Okay. Now these are pretty much the same, but what's different is the square here. Actually, this one happens to run right between two, so that's great. It's just missing the square. This one is a little more complicated. I'll get back to that in a minute. And of course, the ones that are around the pipe, they had to be cut to fit around the pipe. And yes, the spacing might be slightly off because it's a little shifted. And I also had to cut the bottom of the door frame a little shorter so that I could put my tiles, slip them right underneath. This is going to be here, but I'm not going to secure it until after the cabinet is in, because I left this open. I decided not to put any baseboard there, and I am going to put an additional baseboard on top of the floor when I'm all finished. Here again, I cut the bottom of the door so that I could slip my tile up underneath. So everything's all measured. Oh yes, and I had to cut the tile to go around this hole. So I'm going to explain how I did some of those. So I have removed all of the tiles that were whole, and what is left are just the ones that are either tiny little pieces or ones that were specially cut for their location. They're not whole tiles. I have made my stack of tile, and they're all in the same, facing the same direction, so that they're in the position that I'm going to put them in. I have all of the squares are on this side facing the tub and this side on the left. And if you are working with a person, make sure that they don't turn them around when they hand them to you. So now these little pieces along the edge, they're all the same. So all I have to do is put those in a little box or a container, and then just grab them as I need them. So I have a basket for those little parts. Now this one in the corner and this one in that corner are slightly different. So for those two, I'm just going to pick them right up and set them on the edge of the tub, because those are a little bit different, because they're actually, see, they are missing, they're missing the tip. So we'll just leave that right there. Here's all my little pieces, the shape on the side and the triangles on the side. I'm sure I can tell the difference between the two, so it's okay if they're in the same container. And this tile around the toilet, I actually cut it into several pieces. This corner, because it was hard to cut a circle. And so I'm going to just take everything out and put it on a cardboard square so that I will know the order that all these pieces go in, because this would be an easy place that I would get confused. You can see how many times I had to divide it. And this way I can keep this all together and I can move it around with my piece of cardboard. See, here's the one piece that goes around the toilet. It's not a perfect circle, but it's pretty close. Here's the one by the vent. It's got two tiny little pieces. That's easy to tell because of that. I'm just going to put those like that and put this with it in a separate place. Now, these ones along the wall, they're pretty much the same, except where they're missing tiles where the pipes come up through. But I'm going to be starting at this end where the tub is and working my way back. So I'm going to make a stack of them, and I will put the tile, the first tile that I put in, I want that on the top of the pile. And so I'm going to start right here, and I'm going to remove this tile in the corner, and we will stack them all up so that the last tile will be the one at the end by the tub, which is going to be the first tile to go in. Now as I work, I'll be working from the tub to on the way out the door, and the last tile that I'm going to lay will be this one on the end. So this is the bottom, and this is the top. And we can see that I have some pieces. So I'm just going to put them in that order. Oop, and we got some loose squares. I'll just put those all together. And that is going to be by the door. My towels are removed. I'm just going to give the floor one more sweep to make sure it's absolutely clean. I will be keeping this little basket with me the whole time. It'll be nearby me so I can grab those little pieces as I need them. And I'll even remove the threshold, the piece of marble that I also cut. Let's give it a good sweep and then we'll mix our mortar and we'll begin tiling. Well, design these mosaic pieces was really easy to work with. You just fit the diamonds in those little spaces and it's really easy to work around, and having the little pieces made it easier, I think, to cut them. You just have to make sure that where your blocks are, that you have good spacing between the individual blocks. But I loved it so much, I'm probably going to do my next bathroom with that design. So I'm sorry I didn't record the actual tiling process because it got to be kind of late at night and I was anxious to get it done, and it's kind of dirty and it's messy, and I didn't want to be all dirty in front of the camera. And then I was so tired after I got them laid down. I did it, I think, in one evening, and then my husband actually finished. So, well, I put it down, I got it all ready, and then he washed off the extra, and you just use a wet sponge, and the water got dirty because it's really dark. I used a gray, which is kind of a dark gray, because I wanted the stronger contrast between the spaces between my the grouting between my tile. So he washed it off for me, and I'm thankful for that because I was so exhausted I just wanted to go to bed. So sorry I didn't record that part. Maybe I'll get that done. Maybe I'll record the next room when I tile that floor. The floor turned out great. I do like this tile very much. It was pretty easy to work with. While I was tiling the floor, I of course started at the edge of the tub, and I worked my way back towards the door, towards the exit. I think it's really important to not change directions you go, and be careful of your spacing so that you don't have places where it's too tight or too much of a gap. Don't like start on one wall and then say, oh, I'm going to do this wall. Things might not work out right. You know, choose your direction and just work in that same direction. For the end of the room, the threshold, I chose a piece of marble to be the door threshold. In the end, I was very happy with everything. The wainscoting, the tile that I chose, the color of the walls, with my vintage plan. I think it all pulled together very nicely. So I am content with this bathroom. I like its new look. Everything just worked together very well.